Booty's revelation.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. It is Monday, March 30th. Happy Monday. Welcome to the live stream. I got a lot to get through, like 40 headlines to get through. We're going to talk about the Iran war. And I don't know what the hell just happened. Looks like I'm gonna have to restart. Sorry, folks. Thanks for joining me today. It is Monday, March 30th. Got a lot to get through today. Ground troops in Iran becomes more likely as the Pentagon and the Trump administration are finalizing their ground invasion. It's going to be a ground force insertion. Not really sure how long they would be in there. We're going to get through all those headlines as well. Going to talk a little bit about the great No Kings protest. Is that what it was? I was doing errands and I saw all these people walking around in costumes. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Oh yeah, it's No Kings. What a bunch of losers. We're going to hear from Tyler Fisher on that. We're going to hear from Tom Homan, who was on Face the Nation this Sunday, and he pretty much buried the host there, Maggie Brennan. We're also going to hear from Face the Nation, Lieutenant, retired General Frank McKenzie, and his outlook onto the war. He's got some, he's been briefed on what's happening, so he has a pretty rosy outlook. So we're going to hear from him as well. So without further ado, let's read the news. We're going to start here with Zero Hedge, just some economic news. Futures gold jump as yields fall despite surging oil as recession fears surpass inflation concerns. And this is most notably, when gold rises, we have to worry about other financial issues. But the yields are falling despite surging oil prices. That's sort of inverse. Usually the yield should be growing with the rise of oil. And so a lot of the financial information lately has been a little strange. So people are talking obviously about a recession, depression, economic collapse and all these things. And people are worried about the petrodollar, the health of the petrodollar, et cetera, given this conflict in Iran, which we're going to get to right now. The Wall Street Journal, Trump weighs military operation to extract Iran's uranium. The president hasn't made the decision. U.S. officials said he considers the risk to troops. And what I've said mainly is that why is the United States responsible for securing the uranium? Shouldn't that be Israel's wheelhouse? Shouldn't they be getting their commandos ready to insert into Iran to get the uranium? Just the News has the headline, Pakistan set to host talks between U.S. and Iran. Foreign minister says Pakistan is preparing to host high-stakes talks between the United States and Iran aimed at ending a month-long conflict that has rattled the region. Foreign Minister Ishraq Dar said on Sunday both Washington and Tehran have agreed in principle to Pakistan facilitating negotiations, which he indicated could take place within days. Moving on with the news, Fox News, Iran's war against the U.S. and Israel is being fueled by North Korean weapons, expert warns. Iran used communist North Korea's missile technology to strike U.S. base and allies during the ongoing war. First of all, let's not make any mistake here that North Korea is a client state of communist China. Most of the technology that North Korea has received is from China, and most of that missile technology, that transfer was made possible by Democrat President Bill Clinton, which was a big mistake, obviously, because that technology tends to bleed out to other areas, to other countries, and it's exchanged through allies and so forth and so on. But getting back to the issue at hand, the New York Times, there are now 50,000 American troops in the Middle East. The arrival of 2,500 Marines and another 2,500 sailors is keeping the number of American troops in the region at roughly 10,000 more than usual. Usually there are about 40,000 American troops scattered around the bases and on ships at any time around the region, including in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates and Kuwait. But as Mr. Trump has escalated the war in Iran, that number has reached more than 50,000, of course. I mean, this is but just to give you an idea of what kind of troop numbers we're talking about and what you hear all sorts of people saying, we need 1 million troops, we need 500,000 troops to take over Iran. I don't think we're going to take over Iran. I think this 40-year-old, and I don't want to say old because it's constantly being revised given intelligence, but this 40-year plan to neuter the Islamic Republic, and I mean that, but it's because we're not going to take over. Are we going to bomb? We're bombing Iran. And again, I just need to reiterate that I'm never was for this policy decision. I'm not for war generally. I'm sort of anti-war. But this is where we are. It's on now. So what's going to happen? I'm not, in the White House. I'm not in the Pentagon. What I say doesn't really matter, but nobody wants to see dead American soldiers, Marines, etc. The Independent, story number 6, Trump planning high-risk operation to seize Iran's uranium using U.S. troops. Again, why is this our responsibility? The American leader claimed Tehran would give the U.S. nuclear dust as part of the peace agreement. And then Wired chimes in how Trump's plot to grab Iran's nuclear fuel would actually work. Experts say that American ground operations targeting nuclear sites in Iran would be incredibly complicated, but put troops' lives at great risk, and it still may fail. The point is, this shouldn't be our doing. This should be Israeli commandos, specifically for this operation. I'm not saying that the U.S. isn't planning to grab Karg Island to cut off the oil exports for the regime, and possibly start taking the oil for ourselves. This is part of a military plan. Who knows exactly what the exact details are or whether this is actually going to happen or it's not. And we're going to hear from retired General Frank McKenzie coming up in a bit, as well as Tom Homan. I think, we're going to hear from McKenzie first in just a minute. But first, this other article, story number 8. How are we at 9 before? Now we're at 8. I don't know. Fox News. Iran vows enemies won't escape without a lesson amid warning of major world war. Trump floats siege on Iran stronghold as Tehran loosens grip on Strait of Hormuz. This is from Fox News. President Donald Trump has suggested that the U.S. may invade Iran's Karg Island. There's a typo here. On Monday, though he would prefer a diplomatic solution. Talks continue after Iran allowed 20 oil tankers to pass the Strait of Hormuz this weekend. There you go. The original 10, I think it was 10, the original 10 that was going to be a gift to demonstrate that Iran is serious about negotiations. So on one hand, you have the IRGC saying, we're going to kill all Americans and we're, going to blow up Israel and we're going to do all these things. And on the other hand, there's obviously something going on with negotiations because those oil tankers were allowed to pass the Strait of Hormuz, which means there is a loosening. And that's the negotiated settlement would be for the regime to open the Strait of Hormuz, and then we could reach another deal regarding missiles and or the uranium. And so that seems to be moving along. And then because what makes me suspect is publications like Wired having this look out deadly special operations mission, we're telegraphing to the Iranians. Like I said, I doubt that's going to be done by U.S. Special Forces because Israel has the most to gain by eliminating this threat. I mean, everybody wins in this sort of deal. New York Post, story number 10, Trump says deal will probably be reached soon with new and more reasonable Iran regime. Great progress has been made. So again, he's going ahead and reiterating the fact that why would Trump lie? So everybody on the left is saying Trump is lying because the Iranians are coming out and they're saying that we're not negotiating. Well, like I said about the communist Chinese, is like they always lie. Why would we be trusting what the Iranians said and not the president of the United States? And the president of the United States has no reason to lie. Now, there is wartime propaganda being put out there. And so whether Pentagon or the Trump administration is obfuscating or limiting the release of certain types of information, the amount of Iranian missile strikes, etc. I mean, that very well may be. Getting back to the story, though, President Trump said on Monday that a deal with Iran was probably close, but warned the U.S. would obliterate the regime's power plants, oil wells, and main export hub, Parg Island, if negotiations fell through. The United States of America has serious discussions with a new and more reasonable regime to end our military operations in Iran. Great success has been made, but if for any other reason a deal is not shortly reached, which it probably will be, and if the Hormuz Strait is not immediately open for business, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Parg Island. So right, if that's the way you want to live, we're just going to blow everything up and then sail home. Have a nice day. At least that's what he's threatening. But the Associated Press says Trump suggests U.S. could take Iran's Parg Island. That might be correct, but like I said, everything stays on the table. Maybe we take Parg Island, he said. Maybe we don't. We have a lot of options. It would also mean that we had to be there on Parg Island for a while if he puts troops there. And is he telegraphing? And that's what doesn't make sense. Is he telegraphing? Is he not telegraphing? Is it a feign? Is he warning? Does he have something else that he's not talking about that he's going to employ? Who knows? But nobody wants to see an extended conflict to go on with Iran. And adding to the excitement here, the New York Times, Australian sky turns apocalyptic blood red. Winds from tropical cyclone Narelle, or is it Narelle, stirred up rust-colored dust from the iron-rich soil, tinging the sky over Western Australia with a reddish Mars-like hue. Is it apocalyptic? Maybe, maybe not. Hard to say. But it does worry a lot of people. I mean, everybody's worried about World War III, and everybody's worried about what that is going to mean and what it is going on with the future, what that means. Because we don't know. We don't know the New World Order, robots, central bank digital currency, the forced reduction in living standard. You know what I mean? It's the way the WEF and the current futurists describe it. We're not looking for good times. So we thought Trump was the savior. Well, I didn't think he was the savior, but I thought the policy of conservative populism was the way to go, given what we were facing. And in any case, got to keep moving here. Daily Mail: irreplaceable U.S. plane needed to hunt deadly drones was obliterated in Iran. An Iran attack that wounded 12. So if you didn't know what happened, first of all, it didn't happen over the weekend. The Pentagon released information regarding attacks that were and have happened, including Prince Sultan Air Base, a U.S. air base in Saudi Arabia, which was struck multiple times. Planes were destroyed on the tarmac there, and 12 service members were wounded, 5 critically. So it was a serious attack, but this is all delayed release information. So people thought it happened over the weekend. It actually happened the week prior. And the information is just coming out now. So is that good? No. Do the Iranians still have nuclear array capability, missile capability? Yeah, and it's worrisome. But again, we have this debate about the fervent fanatics, the IRGC, who want to prosecute the war no matter what, and the other reasonable, maybe moderate people that, want to end the conflict because it doesn't bode well for the regime or for Iran itself or what have you. Just the news: Iran regime threatens universities in Middle East after alleged strike against Iran University. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warned it would target American Israeli-affiliated universities in the Middle East in response to a reported attack on the Iran University of Science and Technology in Tehran. In a statement carried by Tasnim, the IRGC said the U.S. and Israeli universities in the region would be considered legitimate targets until 2 institutions are struck in retaliation for the damage to Iranian university. Well, it's the University of Science and Technology in Iran. So what they're going after is the technology involved with building a nuclear weapon. And so, when you step up your targeting, a lot of times you go for the brain trust behind any technological advancements. Okay, and now we're going to go over to Real Clear Politics, who had the headline: retired CENT commander, Iran campaign further along than we expected based on many years of simulations. And we're going to hear now from retired General Frank McKenzie, former commander of U.S. Central Command, which is a command of this war, told CBS's Face the Nation after years of preparation, after 1 month, the campaign against Iran is further along than we would have expected at this point, and all simulations that I've seen, that he's seen. So he's seen the simulations during his command. He wasn't giving anything away. But what we do know is that he's in the know. And so I don't want to call it rosy, but let's listen to exactly what he tells Maggie Brennan.
Former CENTCOM commander and CBS News contributor, retired General Frank McKenzie, who joins us this morning. Iran had been waiting to do was activate its militias, or the militias it supports in Yemen, the Houthis.
Margaret, I don't think it'll be a game changer. Their ability to attack Israel is quite limited. Yes, they will have the ability to further stop slow traffic through the Bab el-Mandeb going up into the Suez Canal. We have the ability to go down there and prevent that. It will require additional resources, but we have those resources, and we can certainly do it if that becomes necessary. Margaret, this is part of a plan that's been in existence for many years. What we're doing right now is we're reducing Iranian ability to target ships in the Strait through their short-range missiles, their drones, and other activities. We do that by maintaining air superiority over southern Iran on a 24/7 basis, looking for where these missiles are and striking them relentlessly. Once we reduce those to a very low level, then you'll be able to go in, if necessary, sweep for mines. I'm not certain they put mines in the water yet. I predict eventually they will. It's their nature. But we have the ability to do this. We're on plan. I'll be honest with you, Margaret. I've simulated this many years in many positions at Central Command. We're a little further along than we would have expected to be at this point in all the simulations that I've seen. The U.S. military thinks of a lot of things. We certainly have thought of the Strait of Hormuz, thought of Karg Island, think of all those islands on the southern littoral of Iran. The primary goal of Iranian statecraft, Margaret, is survival of the regime. Back in the late 1980s, they signed a truce with Iraq when things were going very bad for Iran. In Iranian history, it's known as drinking from the poisoned chalice. I believe that they will break. I believe that they will come to terms. And it may be an imperfect solution, but I think it would be one that would include opening the Strait of Hormuz, possibly some deal on the missile systems. The nuclear program is certainly a possibility, but I believe eventually they'll make a deal. But we need to keep the pressure up. We need to continue to press them very hard, because that is, in fact, the only thing they will respond to. I think there are two ways the Strait of Hormuz can be opened. It can be opened if the Iranians negotiate with us to open it, and of course that's the desired solution. The other solution would be if they don't and they decide to fight. We can open the strait under that condition too. The second condition is obviously a lot more intensive in terms of ships and equipment that would have to bring into the region. And yes, help from our allies would certainly be very useful in that case. We have the ability to open the Strait of Hormuz under any condition that the Iranians choose to exist under. Margaret, for many years we've considered options along the southern coast of Iran, seizing islands, seizing small bases, typically raids, and a raid is an operation with a planned withdrawal. You're not going to stay. But some of those islands you could seize and hold. That would have a couple effects. First of all, it would be profoundly humiliating for Iran and would give us great weight in negotiations. The second, the example of Karg Island, which everyone talks about, if you seize Karg Island, you really can shut down the Iranian oil economy completely. And the beauty of seizing it is you're not destroying it. You're retaining it for further use by the global economy and possibly for return to Iran under certain conditions. So all of these things, these are not back of the envelope calculations. These are things we've been working on for many years. And I think we're right to threaten the entire littoral, to hold all these options out there. And I think the president's message is spot on when he talks about all these alternatives. Sure, I think a success looks like the Strait of Hormuz is open. We get some kind of deal on the ballistic missile program, some kind of deal on the nuclear program. That's probably about as much as you could hope for. But I think they're very discrete things that, for me at least, from an operational military perspective, would look like victory. I believe all of those things are actually within our grasp. We just need to continue. Iran will ultimately respond to the use of force. They know and understand it, perhaps better than we have in the past. This administration is willing to use force. Other administrations have been thoroughly deterred by Iran. President Trump is not deterred by Iran.
Well, there you heard from retired general who was the Central Command leader, general there overseeing Central Command, talking about what he thinks or where he thinks the U.S. is in the prosecution of this war against the Islamic Republic. So let's keep moving on with the news story number 16 up here. The Washington Times: dozen arrested for failing to disperse after No Kings rally in Los Angeles. Authorities in Los Angeles deployed tear gas near a federal detention center and made dozens of arrests following one of thousands of No Kings rallies held this weekend across the United States and in Europe to protest Donald Trump's actions and the war in Iran. They don't specify what the actions are. Los Angeles police said Sunday that 74 people were arrested for failing to heed a dispersal order that was given after Saturday's rally ended. One other person was taken into custody on suspicion of possessing a weapon that police described as a dagger. And of course, The arrest stood out from what otherwise were mostly peaceful protests. Yeah, bullshit. There are dozens of arrested, especially the ones, New York was, I think, the biggest, and they had, for the size, they didn't have very many arrests, but out in Los Angeles and in Washington State, there were issues. Post Millennial has the headline, full page No Kings ad run by the Bulwark Conservatives. The group, Home of the Brave, has been advertising for the demonstrations and says it aims to boost turnout beyond previous No Kings event. Organization promoting the upcoming No Kings has been revealed to have ties with several prominent Democrat and anti-Trump Republican figures, including some figures at the anti-Trump Substack page, the Bulwark. Now, we know this, that a lot of these NGOs are not only anti-Trump, but they're anti-American. And a lot of them have ties to communism. We went over this with the Neville Roy Singh groups and Code Pink and all these other NGOs. And these are loosely affiliated, but the same type of shit is we don't care about the democratically elected president of the United States being the commander-in-chief now. We're going to do everything we can to sully him because we don't like him, and to sully his supporters and everything he's doing, and to try to make, try to interfere or block his initiatives and the initiatives that the people that voted for him want. Post Millennial, again, No Kings agitator writes, kill your local ICE agent on an LA federal building. DHS says our courageous men and women face death threats just like this every day. That's why they wear masks. Individuals making the threats will be held accountable, including the guy that did that the spray painting. Graffiti. Just terrible. I mean, because like I constantly said and say to this day that these United States, our country here, our nation was built on debate. It's an intellectual debate system. So this emotional feeling, you want to go out in your dinosaur costume and make an idiot out of yourself. I saw countless interviews going on where the people didn't even know what the hell they were protesting. They couldn't name one thing. They're literally brain dead. All they know is that they hate Trump. And which reminds me, I think I'm going to play this little thing from, I don't know if you know who Tyler Fisher is. He's a comedian that does a great Trump impression. But he put this post out on Facebook.
Look at this map. Each of these dots is a unique, individually organized event for No Kings on Saturday. Did you show up? Will you show up?
No. No, honestly, I didn't even know there were these little fucking gay protests. I guess I'm not on the pussy he-him forum, so I'm not getting the emails on where to show up on the map with my little poster board I made with glitter and glue. I'm home working like a man. While you're out doing that, I'm fucking your girlfriend because she's tired of dating guys who eat them out probably with COVID masks on, okay? Why don't you just, right? Why don't you become a king? Why don't you become a king and actually do something? No, you have these they say, sure, low testosterone, low T, they call it low T, right? Little T, like little Marco, little T. And they go out there and they try to get some attention from these mentally ill she-theys, right? They call them she-they, thems, covered in cat hair. They got the side-shaved head, these dykes, and they're 45, and they had no kids, they're resentful. And these guys go out, these little gay guys, they're straight, but they're gay, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And they try to get attention. It's really sad. It's just really hope they say, oh, I hope they touch my pee-pee. No, go work, get a job, okay? You're embarrassing. It's really sick, right? No kings, right? Losers, no losers. How about that?
All right, that was just a short clip from comedian Tyler Fisher. I thought it was pretty funny. So I thought I'd just play it for you while we're on this no kings thing. Let's get back to the news, though. The Federalist has the headline, "The latest no kings protest is the sound of a tired old thing trying not to die." What are they talking about? The people there, they speak in a vernacular of protest out of habit and as a cultural identity, but they have no idea what they're protesting. They're very angry about the, stuff. And this is what I was trying to say. I don't want to get into the whole article here, but if you went around and looked at all the clips or all the interviews of people even the major networks couldn't get people to put together a cogent answer to their questions. Why are you out here? What are you protesting? It's that constantly that refrain that Trump's a criminal. Oh, really? What crime did he commit? Oh, I don't know. He committed a lot, and there's more. Fox News, communist Democrats use No Kings rally to call for May Day strikes, shut it down as chants for communist revolution and May Day strikes echoed. From New York to Minnesota, the No Kings movement sees a growing ideological shift to more radical rhetoric. That's all they have. It's like the Federalist just said. It's just this protest culture and identity is like, we're against the man, but the communists use this dupe all the time for really stupid people is, we're against the people you're against. And so you go out there, you put on your dinosaur suit or whatever, or your little placard, and you go out there and you protest. Protest what? You want to protest policy? And we're going to hear from Tom Homan in just a minute about ICE is enforcing existing law. And I've said it many times before, I say it many times again, if you're here illegally, ICE can detain you, arrest you, and deport you, and that's how it goes. There's no hearing, there's no warrant for your arrest like for another criminal crime. It's legal immigration is onto itself. It's a completely different beast, which means it's a misdemeanor, yes, but the enforcement is detention, removal. That's it. Unless you like, oh, wait, there must be some mistake. I'm a U.S. citizen or I'm here legally. And they're like, oh, okay, just then prove it. And most of the times they can't. It's like there's some nebulous, oh, I filled an asylum claim. Oh, really? When's your hearing? I don't know. Or did you go or you didn't go to your asylum hearing, but you claimed asylum? It doesn't work that way. The story, Fox News story goes on to say the network included traditional Democrat advocacy organizations like Indivisible, Move On, and the American Federation of Teachers, alongside openly socialist and communist groups such as the Party of Socialism and Liberation, Freedom Road Socialist Organization, the local chapters of the Communist Party USA, including the Twin Cities Communist Party USA Club, which endorsed the St. Paul rally. So it's basically, and if you looked at the crowd, it's mostly washed up lefties, people in their 60s, 70s, really, out there protesting. They always thought socialism and communism was a better way to go, not free enterprise and free association, which is really what we should be working for here. Moving on. Yards away near the main stage, Kevin Dwyer, a candidate for the U.S. Senate for the Socialist Workers' Party, sold copies of the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels, the 1847 work that would transform the next century's global politics. The group says it was part of the continuity of the revolutionary Marxism, tracing back to Marx, Vladimir Lenin, and Leon Trotsky. And actually, Trotsky and Lenin, there was a split, if you didn't know that. And communism, you have to understand, Marx and Engels were well-to-do. Marx was the son of a prominent lawyer, and Frederick Engels was an industrialist son. And so this kind of talk comes straight out of the elite. There wasn't some poor guy out there trying to, the Communist Manifesto, it is just socialism put into a book form, really, but that was invented by the Jacobins way back during the French Revolution. In the middle of the lawn, flags for the Islamic Republic of Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba flew next to a flag of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, a self-described Marxist group. It's just that I don't even know what you're protesting. You're out there at No Kings and you're a communist. Whatever. Whatever. I just want to make money. And you can't do that under a communist regime. You can't, I mean, because what's happening in the real communism that's working now is kind of a fascist version in communist China. Anyway, we got to move on. Just the news, ICE arrests illegal immigrant with gang ties who assaulted first responder after New York City released him. Of course they did. Brian David Tesuaguano Leon, a criminal alien from Ecuador, was arrested by the NYPD on February 14th on suspicion of assault. Instead of being handed over to ICE, he was released from jail back onto American streets. And that is no bueno. He was issued a final order of removal by a judge on February 27th, 2025. He also has prior arrests for assault and family neglect. It is common sense. Criminal illegal aliens should not be released back onto the streets, DHS added. DHS said he is a member of the Latin Kings gang, which is a transnational gang, street gang, versus prison gang. There's a difference. Fox News, Homan fires back at CBS host on DHS shutdown blame, points to Democrats as the culprit. They voted to shut down the DHS because they simply won't fund DHS because they want to change ICE policy so ICE is less effective in the interior. And I'm going to play the clip for you now. It's about 5 minutes. I cut out all the stupid questioning and innuendo and inference made by Maggie Brennan during this interview. But he lays it out perfectly clear. The fact is, this is existing immigration law that ICE is enforcing. And as I constantly say, a law with no enforcement is no law at all. So they're not doing something that's illicit, ICE. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing, what the law requires. That's it. And people don't understand that. And they're out there in their dinosaur suits and going there and wrestling with police with a loaded handgun, or trying to run over police or whatever. But they don't understand is that this is not something criminal they're doing. They're out there apprehending prominently, mostly criminal illegal aliens that are in the country, that are unlikely to be granted asylum, even though Biden granted most people asylum and mass parole and all these things when they certainly shouldn't have. But they're going after criminal illegal aliens. As I said previously, if you're for amnesty, there's no way to get to amnesty until you close the border and get rid of all the criminal illegal aliens, because you're not going to give amnesty to an illegal alien who happens to be committing crimes while here in the U.S., or for that matter, be a criminal from another country escaping prosecution. So let's listen to Tom Homan.
We begin with White House border czar Tom Homan, who was tasked by the president to help oversee ICE efforts.
They got to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Again, we're talking about the Department of Homeland Security, and we're in an increased threat posture right now because what's going on in the world. We got to keep this country safe, which means we got to fund the members of the Coast Guard and CISA and Secret Service and all these other agencies within the Department of Homeland Security. I know the president found a way to pay TSA workers so we can get the American public through those lines, and he also came up with the idea of sending ICE agents to the airport, which has had an impact. So we just need to get the department funded. They want to talk about, immigration policies. We can talk about that, but why do you got to hold the rest of DHS hostage to do that? Let's sit down and talk. I've been talking to them for the last 2 weeks. Look, and American people hold Congress responsible. They're on vacation right now while tens of thousands of DHS employees aren't being paid. The Democrats shut down DHS. They voted shut down DHS because they simply won't fund DHS because they want to change ICE policies so ICE is less effective in the interior. Remember why we're here? We're here because the last 4 years of an open border, millions of people are in this country illegally, many public safety threats, national security threats, and we're out seeking them and arresting them, and they simply don't like ICE enforcing the law. They proved that last 4 years they didn't let ICE enforce the law. Look, I've been up on the Hill. I've been in these meetings. I've met with lawmakers from both sides. This isn't a White House issue. This is the Democrats shutting down the Department of Homeland Security. I support Congress opening up the entire government, the entire DHS, and not holding people in DHS hostage because they don't like immigration enforcement. I support the President of the United States in getting DHS fully funded and operating. ICE will remain in airports to take those jobs to secure the airport and check identification and check exit lanes where people enter to exits, do the jobs that don't require the enhanced TSA screening, so we can get more TSA screeners on the x-ray machines, open up more lanes. So ICE is there to do the job to get TSA screeners back to the line and hopefully open up more lines to get the American public through the airport.
Okay.
Look, we're going to continue an ICE presence there until the airports feel like they're in 100%, in a posture where they can do normal operations. So if less TS agents come back, that means we'll keep more ICE agents there. The president been clear. He wants to secure those airports, especially, as I said earlier, in an increased threat posture. We need to secure those airports. ICE is there to help our brothers and sisters in TSA. We'll be there as long as they need us until they get back to normal operations and feel like those airports are secure. The bill they're holding up right now actually gives $120 million to buy more cameras. I've already talked to them. They want to talk about policy and legislate policy. Look, if they want to change the law, change the law. We're enforcing laws they enacted. Give me one instance, and there's not one Democratic lawmaker can give me one example, a single one, where ICE arrested an illegal alien inside of a hospital. When have we ever arrested an illegal alien inside of a church? The only one that violated the sanctuary of a church was Don Lemon and that group. No, we have not made those arrests. Even though we don't have a sensitive location policy, the men and women of ICE have common sense. They don't go into schools. Not want to make a caveat here. If you're a significant public safety threat and national security threat, you have no sanctuary. But they can't point to one instance where ICE has made arrests in those what they call sensitive locations. Because, as I said, a significant public safety threat or national security threat does not have a sanctuary in this country. We're going to find them, we're going to arrest them. However, you can't point to one instance where we actually went into a church and school because we tried very hard to wait for people to leave places. We arrest them in their home or arrest them in the community. We try very hard not to go in those sensitive locations because we know there's an issue there. So that's what I've been telling the members on the Hill. As far as body cameras, first thing I did in Minneapolis is bring many body cameras there so everybody had a body camera. There's a plan in place right now for CBP and ICE to go body cameras across the entire agency. However, the money to do that is sitting with the Congress fighting over the shutdown. There are certain sections of law on a section I-205 where it's legally, you are illegally able to enter a home, and the 8th District Court has upheld that. But this is a discussion we're having right now. I talk to Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen every day, several times a day. We're talking with members of the White House. We're already working on all these policies. Not really policy and it's about execution. Again, the laws are the laws. If they don't like the law to allow us entry in the home, then change the law. But it's also they want arrest warrants to just arrest an illegal alien. There's nothing in federal law that says that. Matter of fact, the law that Congress wrote says you can arrest an illegal alien with an administrative warrant. That's what the federal statute says. Again, but they want judicial warrants just to arrest an illegal alien. They're asking for changes in policy that's really about changes in the law. Again, if they don't like what ICE is doing, they can change the law. It's that simple.
Well, there you heard from Border Czar Tom Homan, basically giving the straight facts there, is that ICE is just enforcing existing law, and the reason that the Democrats can't change the law is that opinion is fringe. Allowing illegal immigration and allowing illegal immigrants, particularly criminal ones, to stay in the country is not a popular idea. So they would like to change the law, but they just don't have enough support. Nobody wants, particularly criminal illegal aliens coming into the country and then staying and committing crimes and so forth and so on. So it's just like the voter ID thing. If you go out into the electorate, people are very supportive of border control, border enforcement. Much, the mainstream media doesn't let you know that. They think everybody is against border and illegal immigration enforcement. That's just not true. It's always been popular amongst the electorate. It's the same thing with voter ID. Very popular amongst the electorate. And so where is the disconnect there? And that's what you have to ask yourself the question. Where's the disconnect between policies that are very popular with the American electorate that never get enacted or never seem to be enforced or what have you? All right, let's move on to next article here from Just the News. House passes bipartisan bill to allow U.S. president to limit port access for certain countries. House of Representatives passed bipartisan legislation that gives the U.S. president the power to restrict U.S. port access for countries with governments that have seized American property abroad. The Defending American Property Abroad Act of 2026, introduced by Representative August Pfluger, Republican of Texas, passed 247 to 164. When countries violate trade agreements and illegally seize assets from U.S. companies, it puts American job security, economic security, and national security at risk. Certainly does. I fucked up. What I wanted to do is show you this article and this text, and I accidentally restarted the video, so sorry about that. So let's just go over it again. Just the News. House passes bipartisan bill to allow U.S. president to limit port access for certain countries. And as I said, it's the Defending American Property Abroad Act of 2026, introduced by Representative August Pfluger, Representative of Texas, passed 247 to 164. When countries violate trade agreements and illegally seize assets from U.S. companies, it puts American job security, national economic security, and national security at risk. I'm sorry about that. It was that's my problem. Production issue. Moving on with the post-millennial, House rejects Senate's no ICE DHS bill, passes short-term plan for full funding. The 60-day stopgap bill in the House passed with a vote of 213 to 203. We still have a majority there that seems to be working. Late on Friday, the House passed 60-day stopgap funding bill to float cash to all the Department of Homeland Security, including Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and rejected a proposed deal that was passed in the Senate earlier on Friday morning. The move is likely to extend the shutdown at DHS as senators were seen at various airports getting out of D.C. on Friday night, which they shouldn't be. And again, this is, I don't want to say rogue, but the DNC's position on immigration enforcement is way different than the electorate's stance on it. So it's apparently everyone hates ICE. You don't like ICE, do you? And they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. Illegal aliens don't like ICE. But for most people, it's like, just give them amnesty. They want to stay. And to be honest with you, I support some limited amnesty, but not now. Borders closed. That's good. That's one step towards amnesty. And you have to get all the criminal illegal aliens out so we don't accidentally let them stay. And I believe that would have to be done. You would have to apply the no blanket amnesty. You'd have to apply, and given your track record, how long you've been here, whether you've been paying your taxes, whether you're obviously free of any criminal infraction, particularly felonies, things like that. So that's my take on it. So I'm not, people say, oh, you're so horrible. I'm not horrible. Like I said, I limited amnesty, but anything, when you start saying, oh, amnesty for everybody, it's like 10 million people or DACA or whatever. I mean, obviously most criminals, children aren't criminals, but whatever. Just the News Fraud Task Force, Minnesota SNAP benefit receipts not available. Vice President J.D. Vance held the first meeting on White House Fraud Task Force on Friday. Leaders in the task force highlighted goals and expressed frustration over not receiving receipts on Minnesota's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits. So they're hiding, their Minnesota's paperwork on that. Vance said many of the fraud protections in the government were stopped during President Joe Biden's administration. Right, exactly. They don't care. They don't care what the law is. They want to shape the United States outside of law. Illegally. So you understand that? They wanted to shape the United States outside of law, illegally, illicitly. What does that say about those people? Fox News. Story number 26, insurgent Virginia Democrat says his party is completely wrong on gun rights and gerrymandering. Mark Moran, challenging Senator Mark Warner, thank God, in Virginia's Democratic primary, also broke with his party over redistricting efforts. People in Virginia are pissed. They voted for this so-called moderate Democrat, the CIA agent, who, of course, as soon as she got into office, she flipped and went hard left. And people are like, wait, this isn't what we voted for. Too late. And that's always with socialists. That's what you get. You get big promises and all that stuff, and the next thing you know, no more elections. Only the Democratic Party or the Communist Party survive. Post-millennial FBI agents launch fresh review of docs on Eric Swalwell's tied to suspected Chinese spy. Swalwell first came into contact with Fang when she was a member of the city council in Dublin, California. Whatever. It's a Chinese agent. The honeypot. Trump administration has directed FBI agents to compile records of the investigation into Representative Eric Swalwell, the Democrat of California, with his past association with suspected Chinese operative Christine Fang, also known as Fang. And what we have to understand here, of course, is that she was operative, whether she was a spy or it doesn't matter. She was a Chinese national that was raising funds for Eric Swalwell, also slept with him, purportedly, and may have influenced his politics. Just the News, Florida election volunteer arrested for allegedly stealing computer access key during training. The county sheriff's office detectives discovered that sensitive computer equipment was stolen on March 19th from the county supervisor of election office during a training session for volunteers assisting with the upcoming election. Detectives said that John Panici allegedly took an encrypted access key from a voter registration terminal at the session. Officials said the key was configured only for training databases, but authorities have raised concerns about a person with technical expertise possibly reverse engineering the encryption, then using the key in a live voter registration kiosk for malicious purposes. Indeed. Not good. And that's a good thing about Florida is they're very on top of this election integrity enforcement. And that's why when people were saying, oh, it's a red wave, and it didn't materialize, except in one state that had stringent election integrity enforcement, Florida. And you did see the red wave there. Fox News, U.S. allows Russian oil tanker to reach Cuba amid blockade as Trump says island has to survive. If a country wants to send some oil to Cuba right now, I have no problem whether it's Russian or not. We have a tanker out there. We don't mind having somebody get a boatload because they have to survive, President Trump said. And then CNBC, Russia welcomes arrival of oil tanker in Cuba after Trump softens approach to U.S. blockade. Which was my big question, is not whether Russia is sending an oil tanker to Cuba, but what is Trump going to do when it gets there? And he said, no big deal, which was the right move. He's a smooth operator, Trump. And I hope this bleeds over into the conflict with Iran, and I hope this gets tied up toot sweet. Reuters, story number 31, Spain closes airspace to U.S. planes involved in Iran war. Defense Minister, New York Post, Israel bars Catholic officials from praying at holy site, outraging U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee. They said it was because, Israel said it was because danger presented by Iran, which might very well have been the case. Zero Hedge UAE unveils jet-powered kamikaze drone as war gets a lot scarier. And they're talking about the Edge group that unveiled the Shadow 25, a jet-powered loitering munition described as a rapid strike system designed to deliver precision attacks against fixed targets. So that's basically targets that aren't moving, because it's like an airplane with guided munitions can hit a moving car, or a helicopter for that matter. But these sorts of things are only good because you have to plug in the strike coordinates and then let it go. NBC News, Europe seeks to increase deportations as some nations embrace Trump-like tactics. Human rights groups warn that the authorities are already illegally pushing back migrants at EU borders and hollowing out their legal protections. But why? Because it didn't work. It was a disaster. It was basically an invasion force, mostly of Muslim men, of military-age men, that were causing havoc. And we didn't want it here. The Guardian, police in Paris foil attempted bomb attack outside Bank of America building. Incident in the city's 8th arrondissement reportedly involved a homemade explosive device. Police grabbed the man just after he placed a device that held 5 liters of liquid, believed to be fuel, and an ignition system. Like I said earlier, if this is the sleeper cell attacks happening, it's very weak. Very weak. So, which gives me, I don't want to say great joy, but it makes me feel better, because people were very leery about an attack on Iran and, oh, the Hezbollah sleeper cells, it's going to be bombs going off at stadiums and bars and schools all over the place, and that just hasn't materialized. What has materialized is often ineffectual attacks where the explosives don't go off. And so if that's the best they have to throw. Next up, story number 36, Zero Hedge, China flexes robot wolves with machine guns and a collective brain. China occasionally likes to flex its dual-use robotic ground systems, with the latest footage showing quadruped machines that act as robot wolves with machine guns mounted on top, being trained for street battles. And the thing is, with drone systems, robotic drone systems, because these are technically, what they do is they have them with a collective brain. It's like drone swarms, flying drone swarms. But in this case, like wolves, they all kind of act in unison and are communicating with each other in a predatory fashion. So, I mean, we have those systems too. They're coming. I mean, what, are they going to be policing the streets when you're not allowed to go out of your house because of the new pandemic or whatever? Who knows? The future doesn't look rosy. I'm becoming more and more of a Luddite as we push further into this thing. Futurism, ominous surveillance scarecrows appearing across America. We stop crimes before they start. So the reality is, these things are all over the place. You've seen them. It's just a big pole with cameras on it. That's solar powered. But they're mostly in like Home Depot parking lots and shit like that. Growing favorite among police departments throughout the country is the camera on wheels platform known as COWs, COWs for the short, or scarecrows for a more ominous moniker. And like I said, we know what they are. They're just more surveillance cameras that are portable, that you could put like this hub in some place that's high crime. And they got the blue light on it, and everybody's seen them. So I just thought I'd stick that in there. France 24, life with AI causing human brain fry. Heavy users of artificial intelligence report being overwhelmed by trying to keep up with and on top of the technology designed to make their lives easier. Too many lines of code to analyze, armies of AI assistants to wrangle, lengthy prompts to draft are among the laments of hardcore AI adopters. Consultants at Boston Consulting Group have dubbed the phenomenon AI brain fry, a state of mental exhaustion stemming from the excessive use of or supervision of artificial intelligence tools pushed beyond our cognitive limits. The rise of AI agents that tend to computer tasks on demand have put users in the position of managing smart, fast digital workers rather than having to grind through jobs themselves. And basically what they're saying is that you still have to be on top of AI, or AI is going to do it itself. If you want to have the decision-making capability within tasks and programs and so forth and so on, is that you have to manage what AI is doing, or it's going to take over, and people are getting exhausted by it. More AI news. Showbiz 411 AI creator Dallas Little drops another single by singer Eddie Dalton with 3 titles already in the iTunes top 5. So there's this fake AI musical artist. He's a black, well, they show pictures of a black man, but his name is Eddie Dalton, a bit of a crooner type thing, and very popular. But again, what's being shown is that AI could do make things just as popular as humans, cutting out the creative field entirely. And that's one of my problems with it. Why? Well, because recording corporations, record companies don't want to have to pay, people for their creativity. And it's not just record companies, but all corporations don't want to have to pay and coddle labor. Days off and weekends and sick time and vacation time. Why not just get a robot and you don't have to pay for any of that? Oh yeah, it's the economy, stupid. Just the news. Our last article here, Colorado House discusses ban on AI-driven individual pricing. Individualized pricing is increasingly being explored by companies through tech such as artificial intelligence to predict what a given consumer is likely to spend, then charge them the maximum. The Colorado legislation would ban this practice. And the whole thing behind individualized pricing is how Amazon will monitor something that you might be looking at and then gets it to a warehouse close to you so you could get it within a day or so. Well, it's similar, but instead of when you go to purchase it, you are going to get charged the highest price because you've been shopping for it. They know you're going to buy it. And as soon as you go to buy it and click that buy button, you get charged the highest. And so that's something that's in the works. It's actually out there. So you have to be careful. Even if you put something in your wish list or your cart, be careful what the price is, because you might go and push buy and the price might have changed. So you have to be careful of that. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I lost my audio monitor like halfway through what was going on here. So I got levels, but it's not coming. I'm not getting a monitor. Anything anyway, thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to engage the channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment, share the live stream, the podcast, share it with your friends and family or just anybody else out there. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining me today. I will see you tomorrow. Respect.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. People, these people are crazy.